Welcome back to the Around the World podcast. It is episode 5, and it is the first ever in-season episode of Around the World. The 24-25 NBA season is officially underway. No more predicting. I will say I do have one more prediction because I forgot to mention Rookie of the Year in my award predictions, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But we are finally into actual real basketball. No more talking about what teams can be. We actually get to sit here and watch them see what they will be in this season. Starting off, as always, with our community question, we have had, I believe, 15 games over the last 2 days, and the simple question is, what is your favorite game of opening week so far? Mine is Suns-Clippers from last night. I got to watch a majority of that game. It was a late start. First ever game in the Intuit Dome. James Harden looked amazing in that second half. It was just a great game. The Suns looked solid. I was very surprised by the Clippers. I'll get more into this game later. I thought the Clippers, if you saw my prediction video, I had them at the 13 seed, mainly because of having no Kawhi, and they looked completely fine without Kawhi Leonard. So might be regretting that pick a little bit as we get on throughout the season, but that is my favorite game so far. What is your favorite game of opening week, or really the opening 2 days so far? Now, the final prediction I want to get into real quick is my Rookie of the Year pick. I never really mentioned it. I didn't even realize when I put together my predictions that I never put my Rookie of the Year pick into the notes that were for that episode. And so I want to get into that real quick. My pick was Modest Buzelis. If you watched last night's game, I think he played 4 minutes, went like 0 for 3. So not looking great, but really no rookies played great. My runner-up pick was Zach Edey, and my dark horse is going to be Stephon Castle. I think it's very unlikely that he wins it, but we'll see what his role looks like tonight when the Spurs play. It's really going to be an opportunity award this year. I really wanted to give it to Zach Edey because I was kind of like, I feel like he's just going to play the most minutes. But I personally am really high on Modest Buzelis. I think he's going to do great for the Bulls. The Bulls have had history with injuries in the past. I think they might move on from Zach LaVine this year, so he might see some uptick in minutes. Obviously, 4 on the first night. We're not going to be able to take anything from the first night because there was barely any rookies who played above like 15 minutes, if any, who played above 15 minutes on their opening nights so far, and we still have some to play coming tonight with guys like Stephon Castle. So yeah, my Rookie of the Year pick, Modest Buzelis, runner-up Zach Edey, and my dark horse was Stephon Castle. Now, let's finally get into the opening night. So we started out with Knicks Celtics and then Wolves Lakers on opening night. I'm going to talk about those 2 games because I think they've been some of the most interesting in terms of actually looking at teams towards the future. And then I also have some notes just for how the rest of the week went. Starting first with Knicks Celtics. I mean, honestly, it was a phenomenal way to start the season. Of course, you had the ring ceremony. It's very, very difficult to win when you're, going into the opposing building for the ring ceremony. And the Celtics made it impossible to win by having a historic night. Honestly, very surprised they didn't break the record. They were tied with the record with like 10 minutes to go in the fourth and then just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. But, I mean, you're never going to beat the Celtics like that. They're already so dominant. And you just put in the fact that they have that good of a shooting night. It's unbelievable. There's a reason I picked them to win the finals again. They just look unbelievable. It's that simple. They look completely unbelievable. I don't know if they're going to be able to be beat. When you look at a 7-game series, it's going to be really difficult to knock off the Boston Celtics. And that first night proved it just as much as any. The Celtics didn't even need to have that historic night. If they only hit 23s, they're probably still not comfortably winning that game, but it's certainly a lot closer. So phenomenal performance from them, and I think we're looking at a serious 65-win contender, if not more. This is going to be one of the best regular season teams of all time, I think. Want to also talk quick about Jason Tatum. What a start after that dramatic summer. Not winning finals MVP, all the talk about that, kind of getting thrown under the bus maybe isn't the right word, but kind of getting disrespected after winning that championship that he finally won. He got ridiculed so much for not having that ring despite having so much playoff experience, and he finally got it, and it felt like the disrespect got even bigger. You also had the whole DNPs getting benched in the Olympics and everything, and he comes out on opening night in front of his home crowd, puts on an absolute show. 37 points, 10 boards, 8 3-pointers made, just dominant stuff. And I don't think he's going to average, a 37-10 or anything ridiculous, or I don't even know if he's going to even average 30. But I talked about this when I was going through my awards. Tatum could genuinely be a sneaky MVP candidate. The Celtics are going to be so good that even last year, not his best statistical season, I don't believe, he was fifth in MVP, sixth in MVP voting. So I mean, you put that together with the fact that his stats get better, and the team is going to be just as good, if not better, than last year. I think, as long as they can stay healthy, and they didn't even have Porzingis, and it didn't matter. They're going to win a bunch of games. His stats are going to be good. He doesn't need to put up 37 and 10. If he can put up a season of 29, 8 and 8, 29, 8 and 7, maybe a little bit more scoring. Let's say, 30, 37 and 6. That is an MVP caliber season when you look at a 65, 70 win team. And I it's one game, but I really think he might be a little sneaky MVP candidate. The stats are going to be tough to match up with the Shea or with the Luka, but the winning is just such a big difference. And he looked phenomenal on opening night. Now, one of the biggest problems is because they're going to be so good, his stats might have to take a hit because he might have only nights where he plays 25 to 30 minutes because they absolutely mop a team out of the water. Like, that was a Knicks team who's going to be at the upper half of the Eastern Conference. I mean, they play Washington, I believe, tonight, so you might only see 25 minutes of Jason Tatum because Washington's down by 50 or whatever. Now, obviously highly unlikely, but it definitely could happen, and that would impact the averages over the course of a season. But yeah, phenomenal night for the Celtics. Now let's go ahead and get into the Knicks. I've got a couple things I want to hit on, but the very first thing before I talk about these things, because they are negative, is I would say for Knicks fans or anybody who watched that game, there is no reason to panic for the Knicks. OG Anunoby didn't have a great game. You have obviously the Mikal Bridges whole saga. You've got injuries with Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa. You really can't be, like, obviously you're going to be disappointed. Like, you got embarrassed on opening night after making a couple big moves in the offseason, but you just got to move on. The Celtics team is that good. They had a historic night. There is no reason to panic. That game could have been significantly worse than it was, and it just wasn't. I would personally like to see, we'll see what they do the rest of the year. I would like to see the offense kind of run through more of Cat and Jalen Brunson. I was really surprised. Brunson played, I think, great with great pace. Obviously not, he got off to a good start, but just not enough to keep up with the Celtics. I would like to see more of Cat and him pick and roll. We didn't see that at all. And I was really excited as a Wolves fan who got to watch Cat for basically my entire life of being an NBA fan. I would like to see more of that pick and roll, and I was excited to see it, and we really didn't get it at all. Also, I think the rebounding is going to be a problem, at least with Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa out. Cat, like I said, as a Wolves fan, watching for a long time, not a phenomenal defensive center. I would actually say below average defensive center. When he's at the 4 like he was with Gobert, he was a much better defender, got much more value, didn't have to focus as much on rebounding. Now, he did here and there when, Gobert, because he gets so many contests and blocks and stuff, Cat's kind of got to be there. But putting him at the 5, which I think they will put him at the 4, I would assume, once Mitchell Robinson is back. Putting him at the 5 is just not a recipe for success on the defensive side of the floor or on the rebounding front. They got bullied on the offensive glass. They got bullied on the defensive glass. They didn't. I don't even know. I don't think Cat had double-digit rebounds. It just was not a great night for the Knicks. But like I said, no reason to panic. I would be calm if I was a Knicks fan. You guys, like, and I mentioned this earlier, had awful night from OG Anunoby. I think 1 for 7. Mikal Bridges didn't look like himself, but he did kind of find it towards that end of the game in the second half. You're not healthy. You're coming with 2 new players who you traded for. Cat only got like 8 or 9 shots. I think I would like to see a lot more from him on the offensive side. Brunson didn't play his finest game, and the Celtics had a historic night. There's just nothing you can do. I still have them finishing second. That's what I had them in the predictions, and I think they're still going to finish second. Hopefully they can get these guys back soon rather than later, but no reason to panic for the Knicks. Just a brutal opening night playing Boston on their home floor with just one of the greatest shooting performances the NBA has ever seen, or maybe will ever see. The next game of the night I think I might talk about a little bit more, and that is because I'm a Wolves fan, and because the Lakers looked really, really good. Wolves-Lakers in LA. First thing I want to touch on is obviously the big moment, Bronny and LeBron playing on the court at the same time. Incredible feat. Never been done in NBA history before, having a father and a son on the court at the same time, let alone for the same team. And I'm happy, I talked about this before, I'm really happy they just got it out of the way. I think it would have been disappointing if it was a garbage time, like, oh, here comes Bronny, so just get it out of the way. The media's going to be on them all year. I think we're all aware of that. But just get it done. Move on. We had our moment. They came on the court at the same time. Bronny hasn't scored yet. Just let Bronny develop. He's a 55th pick for a reason, and I said this last night to one of my friends. 55th pick might have been a reach for Bronny. I think if he doesn't have the cardiac arrest whole thing happen, which thank God he made it through that, I think he would be a much higher draft pick. He maybe still would be at USC. He was an All-American. Like, he was in high school. He was phenomenal. So I think he's honestly underrated. You just got to let him develop. And Kenny talked about this, Kenny Jet Smith, on the TNT broadcast. Second round draft picks often develop in the second, third year. That's when you see them kind of come to fruition. I would expect the same from Bronny. I would like to see him a lot in the G League so he can actually get get some playing time. Because I talked about it before, he's not going to be LeBron. Let's take it easy. He's never going to be at that level of player. But he can absolutely be a perfectly fine 3-and-D guy in the NBA. And the NBA right now, the modern NBA, is a lot of 3-and-D guys. You want those guys on your roster, on the bench, in the starting lineup. Doesn't matter. 3-and-D as a guard, 3-and-D as a wing, they're all over the place. And every team wants them. The Lakers certainly could use them. So I think just give him time to develop. And I think Bronny's going to be perfectly fine, but just get that moment out of the way. Hopefully the media can stay off of them, and it can just be a LeBron year right now. And eventually Bronny will get his moments in the NBA. The main thing I want to talk about with the Lakers, though, for one, fantastic win for them. I cannot even begin to express how much I love the Lakers finally deciding to play through Anthony Davis. Finally. LeBron is phenomenal. His longevity is incredible. He is one of the most dominant players in NBA history, if not the most dominant player in NBA history. But he is much older now. And AD, in my opinion, is the best player on the Lakers right now. Play through him. They did, and it was unbelievable. I believe like a 35-15 for Anthony Davis on the Defensive Player of the Year last year. That is incredible. Finally, they decide to play through AD. The jump shot looked a little better. He hit a few mid-ranges throughout that game. JJ Redick mentioned thinking that he found something in AD's jump shot. I mentioned this in the last episode as well. If AD can play as a stretch five, not that he has to be 40% from three or anything ridiculous, but if he can hit threes, allowing LeBron to be a 5-out, not only makes it easier for LeBron to facilitate and create his own shot, it makes it way easier for AD to get his own shot. Instead of just getting post touches or touches on the blocks or lobs or anything, AD can actually stretch the floor and get a lot more one-on-one rather than that post touch double comes over and he has to kick out to maybe a three-point shooter. He can be the one getting that one-on-one matchup at the elbow, on the, not the baseline, but on the block. That is what I want to see from the Lakers, and JJ Redick made it apparent on night one against a phenomenal defensive team and the defensive player of the year last year. That is exactly what I wanted to see from the Lakers. I am beyond excited for them. I picked them to be the 8th seed based on what I saw last night. Now I know Minnesota didn't play phenomenal. I'll get into that. That is a team who can be top 6 out west. That was dominant. The defensive side was great. They didn't even have an efficient night. D'Lo did not shoot well. Austin Reeves did not shoot well. And it still only got close in the last 5 minutes. I mean, it was a 15 to 20 point game for about a quarter and a half. And we're talking a Western Conference Finals team last year. I know the Wolves, and like I said, we'll get into it, did not play phenomenal. But that is what I want to see from the Lakers. Incredible job. I also want to hit real quick on JJ Redick. I talked about it last episode and briefly a second ago. This is the coach the Lakers needed. Allow LeBron to become a facilitator. LeBron doesn't need minute restrictions. He needs less on-ball duties if he wants to stay and play a lot, and playing through AD does that. The problem is, Darvin Ham last year, instead of just saying, LeBron, we're going to take the ball out of your hands, we're just going to give you a minute restriction. That is no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. LeBron needs to be in the game. But When LeBron can play in the game and just be an off-ball guy, he had, a 15-5-5? Like, that is a not great LeBron James game. He only got to double digits in the fourth quarter. This is a guy who scored double digits for 1,000 games in a row. That is what I want to see, and JJ Redick executed it perfectly. He was my dark horse for Coach of the Year. If he can lead the Lakers to a top 6 seed, he has a very good chance of winning it. A rookie head coach leading a team that's been a play-in team for the last couple years into a playoff spot, absolutely he will deserve consideration. And I think he's going to potentially lead AD to maybe not an MVP season, but an All-NBA season, definitely an All-Defensive season, maybe a potential Defensive Player of the Year season. JJ Redick, and I know I'm overreacting, it's one game. I cannot describe how excited I am for the Lakers. They were already going to be on my teams to watch on League Pass. They, after that first game, way higher. They were fun to watch, they were really good, and I'm just excited to see what they can do moving forward. On to the Timberwolves. Obviously a disappointing night for them, but I can't say I'm surprised. There was always going to be struggles, especially offensively, coming off of that Cat trade. You have 2 new pieces on offense, Dante DiVincenzo, as well as Julius Randle. Julius Randle looked definitely a little lazy, I can't lie, but I heard from Knicks fans that that's kind of just how he is as a player. The Wolves hopefully can change that identity about him, because we need him to be a high-energy rebounding guy in order to succeed. But the biggest thing was just simply the offense. Conley did not have a good game. DiVincenzo, I don't believe, was efficient. Ant certainly, I think, was 10 for 25, was not efficient. Gobert, I think, was the most efficient offensive player on the court. I'd like to see more Naz Reid. Rob Dillingham didn't play at all. It was just a weird first game, and there was a lot of tinkering with lineups, which I guess fair enough to Chris Finch. It's the first game of the season, the first time you have everybody playing together. But I wasn't a fan. I was not a fan of the offense. The defense was okay. You got to tip your cap to AD playing such a dominant game the way he did, and Rui Hachimura being that aggressive. You just got to move on from that. They play a Sacramento team tonight who is very offense driven, so we'll see what they can do. But the offense certainly didn't look good. I would like to see Anthony Edwards. I had him as a dark horse for MVP because I thought his shot diet was maybe going to get a little bit better, and he also was just going to get more shots in general. That was not the case. It was very clear in preseason that he was going to shoot more threes. The volume of threes went up a lot, but this was a lot of hero ball from Anthony Edwards. He was we're running pick and rolls to kind of facilitate an offense and get a good look, and Ant is just taking the pull-up three, double-teamed immediately. Now you're going to have nights where he's going to hit his shots, and they're going to win, and he's going to have 35, 40 points, and it's going to be like, holy shit, Anthony Edwards is insane. But you're going to have nights like that where Ant doesn't shoot efficiently, 40%, and you lose. So I would like to see some more facilitation. Not that he has to be a point guard like a Mike Conley where it's like, oh, you're only getting 6 shots, 7 shots a game. Absolutely not. And should be taking 20 shots a night, pretty much every night. But the decision-making needs to improve, I think, a little bit. I'd like to see Julius Randle also be a little bit more involved. I think he only got 7-8 shots the other night. A Sacramento team who doesn't really have defensive forwards. It's what they're starting to line up now is Fox, Herter, Sabonis, DeRozan, and I don't even know who the fourth would be. I'm blanking around Keegan Murray. That's not really a defensive team at all. It's a good rebounding team with Sabonis, but not really a good defensive team. So I'd like to see Julius Randle be more aggressive. I also would like to see lineups on the bench with, instead of going Nas, Randle, and Ant, where Ant's going to take a bulk of the ball and the defense is going to be nowhere near as good, which if you wonder why Naz Reid doesn't start as someone who kind of just doesn't really watch the Wolves a lot, if you are someone who does that, doesn't watch them as much as me, Naz Reid is not a starter because his defense is not good enough. He is an incredible offensive weapon, but his defense is very, very lackluster. He will start some games this year, but you might as well just go all in to him and Julius Randle when you have the opportunity to stretch the floor. I would like to see a bench lineup of, say, if he's not in foul trouble, Jaden McDaniels, Dante DiVincenzo, maybe Joe Ingles, maybe Rob, Conley, anybody, and then Nas and Julius Randle. That is a lineup I would like to see when Ant is taking a break. Randle can get downhill. He's a real physical force in the paint. You wouldn't have to play the 5, so he would still have a forward on him. Naz Reid stretches the floor obviously significantly better than Rudy, so you can play 5 out, kind of what we talked about with the Lakers and LeBron, if AD can stretch the floor. With Naz Reid, that Julius Randle can get downhill, can kick out. You have shooters around him like DiVincenzo, Conley, Ingles, that type of stuff. That is a bench lineup I would like to see Chris Finch and the Wolves run. We'll see what they do. Like I said, it's going to be a high-powered offensive game tonight against Sacramento. If the Wolves offense can't keep up, they're staring down 0-2, to be honest. But I really am hoping for a more aggressive Julius Randle. I'm hoping for just a more efficient game all around from everybody. And I'm looking for Anthony Edwards tonight. Get your buckets. The Knicks aren't an incredible defensive team. But I'm certainly looking for him to be just a little bit more of a facilitator. Doesn't need to, be, like I said, Conley. But take 20 shots instead of 25 and get a couple extra looks for some guys over there. Not even extra looks, just better looks than the shots that you would be taking. But he will have nights where he goes off. Other thing on the Wolves I'll hit on real quick was the rebounding was definitely a problem. I did also say it is just the Lakers, though, and the Lakers are an incredible rebounding team, physical team. They dominate the paint. That's why they get a lot of free throws. That's why they led the league in points in the paint last year. They're just dominant. But the rebounding certainly did not look good. This kind of goes into the effort from Julius Randle. I definitely need some more of that. I also need some more effort from Naz Reid rebounding. Just all the bigger guys. Look, guys like Ant are going to get their rebounds. They're certainly going to come. Guys like DiVincenzo, Conley are going to get their long rebounds when the moment comes. But we need Randle, I think, to be more assertive on the boards when Gobert is having to defend the center. Or like what's likely going to happen tonight when Sabonis kind of stretches the floor just a little bit. Gobert might not be in the paint 24/7 or might be on the pick and roll or on a switch where we need some help rebounding from guys like Julius Randle. I would like to see a little bit more of that. All right, we get through opening night, and it is time to hit on our notes for the rest of the week so far. First up, I want to touch on something that was really disappointing, and that was Embiid and Paul George being out for the first week of the season. Kind of out of nowhere. And there's a reason they're investigating this now, because it was so out of nowhere. We heard really nothing except for, the Paul George injury we saw happen in preseason. We kind of expected, he's not going to be healthy for day one. But the Embiid thing I did not see that coming at all. And I'm extremely, extremely disappointed. I was excited to see Embiid get out there with a new team, take on not a lesser role, but a less physical role. He lost a lot of weight. As he said, he wanted to, play more games and have more stamina in him, kind of keep himself more healthy. And he's already missing games at the start of the season. I'm worried. I can't lie. The good thing is it's the start of the season. Right? This isn't happening in April where it's like, oh my God, he's not going to be healthy for the playoffs now. But it's a bad look. I hope he's okay. I don't know what the heck happened. But I just hope Embiid and Paul George can get out there over the course of the next week, starting next week, and really start to build a foundation, because now they're going to be 3-4 games behind everybody else. Teams like the Knicks and Wolves, who struggled on night one, but are already beginning to mesh. Not only are the Sixers not going to have that for the first 3-4 games, they're not going to have Embiid and Paul George, but they're also not going to be able to mesh yet. So they're then going to be 4 games behind everybody else in terms of getting used to how to play with each other. We'll see how it goes. I think the Sixers are still going to be fine as long as Embiid and Paul George is out. They're a solid enough base. They put up a good effort against Milwaukee last night, so we'll see how it goes. But that was really, really disappointing to hear, and I hope they can get healthy soon, because I really want to see that fully healthy Philadelphia team. Speaking of health, this one I heard during halftime of the game last night, the Suns-Clippers game, and that was that DeJounte Murray is feared to have a broken hand. I did not have eyes on the Pelicans-Bulls game. I was not watching it, but I saw Murray had a nice night. But that is just disappointing. Now, I think they're going to be fine because, they still have such a deep team with CJ and Zion and Brandon Ingram. Ves Missy had actually a really solid first game. You still have, I'm blanking on Herb Jones and just a solid foundational, solid foundation of a team around him. I think they're going to be fine without DeJounte if he's out for a month or however long, but it's just disappointing. You all offseason are waiting for a move, and you finally make one, and he plays a great first game, and you have that happen. It's just really disappointing. So, similar to what I said for the Sixers, I feel bad for DeJounte Murray. I feel bad for Pelicans fans, but I think you guys are going to be just fine. Like I said, better this happens now and in the first week of the season than for it to happen in March and April when there's playoff series on the line, playoff hopes on the line, or an actual season survival on the line. Really disappointing to see though, and I'm hoping the best for him, and I hope if he is hurt, if he does have a broken hand, that he can return soon. Now I want to get into a little bit more of my game of the week so far, which was Suns Clippers. Like I said, the Clippers really surprised me. I was not expecting them to be good at all this year, and granted it was game one in the Intuit Dome, and you've got a big crowd and the wall, and Booker fouling out and everything. I was surprised. They looked good. Harden looked good. Zubac looked good. I think Zubac is actually going to have a pretty solid season. He doesn't really have a clear backup. It's Kai Jones now. So, I think he's going to play a lot more minutes. Hopefully he can stay healthy. But he is a pretty nice center to have next to a Harden, I think. So I'm excited for them. I don't expect to watch a lot of the Clippers unless they're on national TV like they were last night. But I think I definitely underrated them. We'll see if Harden can stay healthy. I think that's also going to be a big point in this. If Harden can stay healthy, they'll definitely be above the 13 seed that I put them in. We'll see how long Kawhi's out. But I had them at 13, like I mentioned, and they looked last night significantly better than what a 13 seed would be. They looked definitely playing worthy last night. Now, it doesn't mean they got to win, but I want to talk about this with the Suns. I mentioned this a few episodes ago, talking about Bradley Beal. I said I think they should consider him playing on the bench. I don't think he was going to, and he didn't. But there was a point, I believe, end of the third quarter, start of the fourth quarter, that really got me excited. He went out there with no Booker, no Durant, and played with the bench squad. That is exactly what I want. Beal can still close out the game like he did, but playing him, maybe offsetting him with the starters, right? He's fine to start, he's fine to close, but offsetting him with the starters and allowing him to go take control as a leading scorer of that bench squad, absolutely love it. Phenomenal job from Coach Budenholzer. That is what I want to see. That was incredible. He was very clearly the number one option. He was guiding them. And I think, honestly, this was at a point where the Clippers had kind of come back and taken a lead. And Bradley Beal, with that bench squad, was keeping them in the game. That's what I was talking about. Obviously, he doesn't actually have to be benched. Doesn't actually have to not close out games or not start games. But playing him with the bench squad, I absolutely love. It looked great last night. I think it's going to continue to look great. I hope they continue to do it. I hope Bradley Beal feels comfortable doing that because he looked great in that role. I am so excited for that. As for Devin Booker, this is the one thing I was a little disappointed with the Suns, and they still got the win despite this. Booker needed more shots. I don't think he definitely didn't play phenomenal, but he was efficient when he got, I think he was 5 for 8, 5 for 8 or 5 for 9, something like that. He was one of the most efficient players on the floor, and he didn't even get double-digit shots. I know he had the foul trouble, and I'm sure he would have gotten a lot more shots down the stretch had he not fouled out and played through overtime. But he was, like I said, probably the first or second most efficient player on the court and didn't even get double-digit shots. I'm happy that the Suns are spreading the love a lot more. I think that's overall going to make them a better team. But you should not, in my opinion, have been close with this Clipper team. And I think they wouldn't have been if Booker had gotten more touches. Obviously, it's night one. I don't want to overreact, but hopefully, I'm going to keep my eye on the Suns. I'm hoping Book gets more shots. Like I said, I understand the foul trouble. I understand the fact that he missed out on overtime, and guys like Tyus, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant didn't miss out on overtime. But I certainly would like to see a little bit more shots going up for Devin Booker because he really is that good of a scorer for this team. Not to mention, just he's an all-star. So not even about how good he is for the team. He just is one of the best players in the NBA right now. Probably the second best shooting guard in the NBA right now. Final team I want to touch on. Sorry if I don't touch on your team. That's how it's going to be as we do these in-season episodes. I'm not going to get the chance to talk about every team if there was nothing that I thought was too important to talk about, especially at a time like this where, I'm not going to talk about the Cavs Raptors when the Cavs just murdered them and the Raptors don't look good. Like, That's not a game I'm going to talk about, unfortunately. The one game I do want to talk about here was a team that I predicted to do above expectations, and that was the Hornets. LaMelo looked phenomenal. 30-10 on opening night. I believe ESPN showed he's just the third youngest player to put up a 30-10 on opening night. The Hornets look good. Brandon Miller looks good. Trey Mann was phenomenal off the bench. This is the Hornets team I was telling you guys about. I don't think they're going to be top 6 out east or anything crazy, but we are finally at the point in the rebuild where they are building up. The team is getting better. You have pieces. Hopefully LaMelo can stay healthy. You have a new coach in Charles Lee coming from the Celtics, a very respected assistant with that Boston Celtics team that won a championship. That is the type of stuff you want to see. I am so excited for the Hornets. As for the Rockets, that's a pretty tough loss, blowing a near 20-point lead. Dylan Brooks was god-awful. I believe it was like 0 for 7, no points, 3 boards, 3 assists. I don't know what happened there. Reed Shepherd got his first minutes in the NBA, so shout out to Reed Shepherd. I think he had like a 4.22 or 4.32 or something like that. So, like I said, with the Rookie of the Year, it's going to take a while for these guys to really get major minutes because a lot of the best rookies are on teams where they're not going to play a lot of minutes, like Monis Buzelis, like Zachary Ricochet having Jalen Johnson in front of him, that sort of stuff. But yeah, really, really excited for the Hornets. They looked much better. LaMelo looks as confident as ever. He had a hilarious post-game interview as well talking about Kemba Walker. That dude has absolutely zero media training, and it is the funniest thing I have ever seen. But I'm excited for the Hornets. They are certainly, like I said, on my League Pass teams. And that is the last thing I'm going to mention here in the episode is my League Pass teams that I'm going to be watching more than the average team. Starting obviously first with the Timberwolves, I'm going to watch probably near all 82 games of the Minnesota Timberwolves this year. So they're not my League Pass team because I'm in market, but they're my number one most watched team. The Lakers are certainly on there for most watched teams for me. I am really excited to not only watch Anthony Davis as number one option, but watch JJ Redick be the coach. I think he's going to be a really, really good coach in the NBA, and I'm going to watch quite a lot of him. I'm also going to watch probably a lot of the Grizzlies. With John Morant's there, it's always an exciting team to watch. I'd put them on there. The Kings, certainly going to be watched quite often. And then the Spurs, I would say, are going to be really high on my League Pass teams. Another team you can give as a little honorable mention, the Mavericks. I certainly am going to watch probably a few games from them just solely off of Luka alone. And I picked him to win MVP this year, so I want to keep my eyes on him. Out East, Pacers definitely always have to be a League Pass team to watch. They play so fast. It's so just fun to watch. Magic, I'm really excited to watch Paolo Banchero. They are on my League Pass teams. The Hawks, always on my League Pass teams just because I'm a massive Trae Young fan. Kind of similar to the Pacers. They play super, super fast. They're just a fun team to watch. And like I said, I really do like Trae Young. And my final two teams, I should say, are the Hornets, as I just mentioned earlier, and the Knicks. I would say the Knicks are probably my second favorite team. They're probably my Eastern Conference team. Got a Jalen Brunson jersey hanging up over there. So yeah, there you have it. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams out east, and out west we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams there as well, not including the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I've got 5 teams out east, 5 teams out west that I'm going to be trying to watch as much as I can on League Pass. Obviously, I'm not going to watch, much of the Blazers or, some of those bottom teams out in each conference. I would also put, as an honorable mention, I think the Pistons as well. That's a young team that I may put some eyes on. But those are my League Pass teams. Feel free to drop yours down in the comments below. That was the first in-season episode of Around the World. We try to hit on those 2 opening night games. Over the course of the season, it's going to be very similar to that end, where I'm kind of just talking about a bunch of stuff around the NBA. Some pieces will be a little longer, some will be shorter, but there might be games here and there that I touch on a lot more, like that Wolves-Lakers game. Like, say if we have, a Nuggets-Thunder game, like what's coming up tonight, those are the type of games that I would expect to talk about a little bit more in depth. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you guys so much for watching or listening. As always, if you are watching me on YouTube, you can get all these episodes over on Spotify, Around the World, exactly the title that you see on these episodes. If you are listening to this on Spotify, all episodes of me actually talking to you can see me face to face, are available on YouTube. The link is in the description, both on YouTube and on Spotify. There'll be a lot of videos coming out now that the season is in full swing. We'll also have some Sims coming out as trades happen and just to get some content on 2K throughout the year. Like I said, if you made it to the end, I really, really do appreciate it. Reminder to drop your League Pass teams or your favorite game of opening week so far down in the comments below. And I will see you guys very likely next week for the next episode of Around the World.